Hello, 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 beautiful unicorns. Yana Kasperczak coming to you live from Ontario of Canada as your certified professional performance and spiritual awakening core energy coach. It has been my soul's purpose to help women, to help you get your shit together so you can break free from the mental prison you find yourself in and build a life, business, and or a career that you are obsessed with, that you love and so proud of and excited to wake up to every single day. So on Tuesdays, I do story time with myself, Yana Kasperczak, where I go live on my own personal page at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time-ish. Ish depends on what time you finish the Sacred Circle. So I just want to say I love all the women that are joining and checking out the Sacred Circle and seeing and growing with the help and guidance and support of one another, where they feel so safe to be themselves and not be judged. So, the topic for today of this story conversation is why good girls struggle to set boundaries. Now, today I'm not going to give you an actual story from anyone that I had worked with, because this is a story of every single woman that I work with, have talked with, have connected with, and from myself as well. This good girl mold is so deeply ingrained in all of us, and as amazing as it is, not knowing how to use it to your benefit is going to continue to make you feel less than. It's going to continue to make you feel like you're not good enough, you're not doing enough, that you can't have the things that you want, make you feel like you gotta continue walking on eggshells, and especially when it comes to setting boundaries. So let's talk about what boundaries are first. Let's start at the very beginning. Boundaries are limits and rules we set for ourselves with relationships and with interactions. They define what we are comfortable with and how we expect to be treated by others. Boundaries, their job is to protect our emotional, our physical, and our mental well-being that allow us to maintain a sense of autonomy and respect in our lives. Now, many of you have experienced your boundaries being crossed over and over and over again, from a young age, from a teen, from older age. All of us have had our boundaries crossed. And at some point, and how can you tell when the boundaries crosses? You don't feel comfortable, but there's a voice that tells you that if you say something, the other person might get hurt with or by or from your words. So therefore, you might find yourself not saying anything for the fear of hurting others being much more powerful than the fear of you being hurt when your boundaries crossed. And then that boundaries crossed once, twice, 3 times, and it becomes normal. It becomes like, oh, this is how it should be. This is how it's supposed to be. And when you start to reset that boundary and set that boundary in place, as for some reason, maybe you didn't even notice that the boundary was crossed because your brain normalized what you were going through to make it a win for you, what you were getting out of it, when in reality, what you were getting in return was not even comparative to what you were giving. Because in the process of allowing people to cross those boundaries, you end up losing yourself. And when you lose yourself, that is ultimately one of the best gifts that you can get. And I know not feel like that initially. I know it definitely did not feel like that for me, because it felt like this is it, this is the end, this is how I go. And everything just felt like the pending doom and that I was going to die any minute, any moment. And even as a teenager, I remember feeling, weirdly enough, I felt like I wasn't going to live past my 30s. And when I got into my 30s and I started going through the spiritual awakening, I realized why. It's because my previous self had died, and now my new self, now I'm awakened, now I'm different. And once you awaken, you can't go back to sleep. I needed to work on myself, and I saw how many boundaries were crossed from everyone, by everyone, because I was being such a good girl and letting people do what they wanted to do and not speaking up, not saying what I wanted. Because here's what happens when you allow others to do or say what they want and you just are okay with it. Number one, they don't get to know who you are, and number two, you didn't get to practice saying who you are. And number three, what happens, and there's more than that, but I'll stick to the three, is that you take on who you are based on everybody else's assumptions and expectations of who you're supposed to be, who you should be. So this perception, this view, this understanding of who you truly are is so twisted and manipulated that one day, if you are one of the lucky ones, you will go through spiritual awakening, where you wake up and you literally feel like you wake up in a different planet and a different world. You feel like your life is not your own. You feel lost and confused. You feel alone and isolated, even when there's people with you, and you can't shake off the feelings of pain and hurt and loss and sadness and grief. And most of it has to do with who you have been trying to be for the past how many years. And now you're given the opportunity to rediscover yourself, to redefine yourself, to find yourself. And that's why it's one of the most greatest gifts that many of us get, is to lose ourselves so then we can find ourselves. Because once you find yourself, you can never lose yourself again. One, because you know yourself so well that anything anyone says, it won't even penetrate, it won't even go through, because you know yourself so well, and you will continue shining as loud and as audacious as you were meant to, and you will be more than okay with it. You will be happy with it. So let's talk about where good girls often struggle to set boundaries due to the deeply rooted societal expectations and their internalized belief. And I'll give you 2 reasons why. Number 1 is conditioning and expectations, which comes from people pleasing. How many of you are people pleasers? Put your hand up. I'm a recovering people pleaser. I still catch myself, because once you're a people pleaser, you're most likely always going to be a people pleaser. But the difference is that once you realize you are, and once you learn how to get it under control, you only please those people when there's something in it for you, and not just unconsciously giving and giving and giving. There is a difference. People pleasing itself is not a bad trait. It's just you haven't learned how to use it. You haven't learned how to decipher what's in it for you, and if the exchange is equal, because it needs to be an equal exchange. And here's another kicker. I hear very often that I hate it when people use me, and I don't like being used. And the word used comes to mind. But the kicker is that each and every one of us, we're here to use one another. We're here to learn from one another. We're here to give to one another. So if you're not liking being used, then maybe here's the phrase, you don't want to be useless. So if you're not being used, what's the opposite of useful? Useless. You don't want to be useless. You want to be useful. So in order for you to be useful, you need to learn to be okay to be used and useful when it aligns with you and who you are. Because there are going to be people who will use you and use and use and use, but it does not align at all. You don't want to be physically, mentally, or energetically drained. So figuring out the right people, the wrong people, the right places, the wrong places, the right situations, the wrong situations. It's up to you. So people pleasing. From a young age, many women are taught to be agreeable, accommodating. This is one trait that good girls all have. They're accommodating. This is often where they will walk on eggshells just to accommodate everyone else, and self-sacrificing. They will tell you, or you will tell others, as a good girl that you're listening to this, you will tell others yes to doing something. Somebody comes and asks you, can you do this for me? And as a good girl, you will say, yes, I will do that for you. But you actually don't want to do that. So what is the opposite? How do you practice the setting that boundary in this area of you being a people pleaser? You practice saying no. Some of you might start practicing saying no with an explanation why you're giving the no, while others will right away practice saying no without explanation. I recommend saying no without explanation, and here's the reason why. And I've learned this myself as well. And many of you have probably already experienced this yourselves. When you say no and you follow the explanation and you're reasoning why, you start to leak out energy. You start to feel drained. You might stumble all over your words. And in the end, you might end up saying yes and convincing yourself to say yes. That's one thing that can happen. Another thing that can happen is as you are saying no and then you're explaining is that the other person hears your explanation and they manipulate your explanation to get a yes out of you. So in the end, you're still going to say yes. But practicing saying no is really hard without explanation. It's really hard for good girls because you don't want the other person to feel hurt. Your whole persona of a good girl is you want everyone to like you and love you. You want everyone to be pleased with you. You want to be seen and believed to be accommodating, self-sacrificing, and agreeable good girl. And if you're not, then you're a bad girl. But what's wrong with being a bad girl sometimes? Sometimes in order for you to get what you want, you simply cannot be good. Good girls do not get ahead. Badass girls do. But badass girls does not mean they're bad at the core. At their core, they're still a good girl. They have just learned to choose themselves and not somebody else that is not going to benefit them. So, good girls learn that their value comes from making others happy, which makes setting boundaries feel selfish or wrong. How many times have you held your tongue when you wanted to say something because you either didn't want to hurt somebody's feelings or because you wanted them to actually feel happy and feel good? But if you said the truth and you spoke the truth, they wouldn't have. But how long would they have felt bad for? Chances are it wouldn't be very long. And before you know it, they would learn from that momentary pain, and it will be an opportunity for their growth and evolution, for becoming a better version of themselves. Another reason why good girls don't speak up and don't set boundaries is fear of rejection. They don't want to be rejected. They don't want to be left alone. They don't want to assert themselves or their needs, and they don't want to say no because it can lead to being rejected. It can lead to feeling like someone is disapproving of you and your choices and your thought. And really, it leads to conflict. And good girls don't want to deal with conflict because conflict doesn't feel good. It's because you're doing conflict wrong. You haven't learned how to thrive through conflict. And conflict itself almost sounds like a draining word. But what if you looked at the word conflict and you replaced it with a challenge? How much more likely will you be to take on a challenge versus take on a conflict? And when a challenge presents itself, you have the opportunity to take that challenge head on and grow and become someone different. Not much, but a little bit different. Every single day, little by little. And so this fear of rejection, it does keep women from not only expressing, but also experiencing their own true needs and desires and wants and dreams. And they will continue to play small. Guilt is another one. The good girl, she will tie her self-worth to how much she can give and how much she can conform to others' expectations. How good of an actress she is, as I like to refer to this. We're all playing roles in our life. And this is one of the reasons why we end up going through spiritual awakening or depression, essentially. And this is where there is a pretty big confusion between here's how I'll put it. My understanding of spiritual awakening is misdiagnosed depression, which means that you go to a doctor, they're not going to tell you your spirit is awakening and this is why you're questioning things. They will tell you that you have depression. Here, take this and numb yourself. I've been on antidepressants and it affected me and it did more damage than good. And it numbed me and I was not myself. I didn't even know who I was. I lost myself even more. And when I stopped, this is where, of course, everything it's like when you open up Pandora's box and you try to close it, but it's open just a little bit, just a crack. This is essentially what these meds do. They don't fully close it because once it's open, you can't close it. And then when I stopped taking them, it just blew wide open. And everything has just started flooding in. And I had essentially 3 choices. 1, do absolutely nothing about it. Continue living that same way. 2, I don't even want to mention that, but I wouldn't even be here. And 3, I'll say it in a humorous way. Suck it up, buttercup. That was one of the phrases that was coming to me, that get your shit together, suck it up, buttercup, learn, grow, and do the scary and comfortable things, and you will find yourself on the other side. And this is exactly what happened. And I discovered myself in all the different ways how I was a good girl. So this guilt of being the good girl is often the guilt that we put on ourselves. And it comes from whenever I would put myself first, whenever the women that I work with put themselves first, this is where they would feel guilty because the default programming does not dictate that. They watch and observe their mothers be good girls. Give up everything, give up their life, give up their careers, give up their self-care, give up their self-love, give up literally everything and take care of the family and raise the family. And this has been passed on to us generation after generation after generation. And if you didn't see your mother take care of herself, you didn't see your mother pamper herself, then why would you allow yourself? If that is the programming that you receive when you're little. But if you saw your mother take care of yourself and love herself and do things for her and follow her goals and follow her dreams and put herself first, then you're probably not watching this. You're probably watching some other video that is specifically for you, the good girl that got her shit together, that has her shit together. So this guilt is normal, and it can actually paralyze, making it difficult to set and enforce those boundaries. Because once again, when you set the boundaries in place, you're selfish, you're a bad girl. How dare you speak those boundaries? I tell you to set those boundaries because I don't like them. And this is one of the reasons why you won't. Now, another reminder I want to share with you is that when it comes to setting boundaries, sometimes it doesn't have to come from you. Those boundaries can come from other people who might be, let's say, when it comes to your family, it might be your partner that needs to set the boundary with his family. So that way you're not the one setting the boundary. Or maybe, oh, just notice one of my ears is up and the other one's not. Let's put them both up. There you go. It's a little cuter. Or let's say with your kids, it might be also not your husband setting the boundaries with your daughter. It might be you setting boundaries with your daughter because it feels safer coming from a woman than a man. So recognizing, but also making sure that it's not just your way of getting out of setting a boundary. That this boundary is best set via this person because it must come from them. Okay, now, and also we talked about the self-worth issues, the deeply ingrained programming that you don't believe you're worth, to set those boundaries that you're not allowed to, or that you were supposed to conform to somebody else's expectations and now you're not. How dare you? And that you may believe that by setting your boundaries that you lose your value, a value of yourself, and your self-worth goes down. But the opposite is the truth. And you will notice that once you start setting boundaries. Many of you have already started setting boundaries, and you have noticed that you regain yourself, you find yourself, you rediscover yourself, and you reinvent yourself as well. Because the person that you were when you allow those boundaries to be crossed is an entirely different person, and she has passed on many lifetimes ago. Hey, Kimberly, how are you doing, beautiful? And hey, Rebecca, to you. Long time no see, ladies. So, and also you don't have any practice. What practice have you had, or what role models have you had in your life that demonstrated how to set healthy boundaries? Most of you didn't have anyone guiding you. Most of you didn't have anyone showing you how to do it or leading you how to do it, because most women that you were exposed to just allow things to be as they were. So now it's your time to set those boundaries and practice, and it takes one generation to change. Now, let me see. I have a few notes here that I took before hopping on. Now, the areas that most good girls struggle to set boundaries, I'm just going to go through these really quickly without going into too much detail, is your personal relationships. This is with family, with friends, and in your romantic relationships. Because you feel obligated to meet everybody's needs, everybody's expectation, and maintain peace. And it often comes at the expense of your own needs. When it comes to friends, you might find yourself overextending yourself or stretching yourself too thin to help or support friends, even when it's actually draining you or it's inconvenient for you. And this is very, very, very common. Maybe you have people coming to you and asking you for help all the time, but they're never actually giving you help, and especially with friends. You're always there for them, but they're never there for you. And as great as it is being useful, because none of us want to be useless, recognizing that, is this where or how you want to be useful in your life? Or is it with this person, or perhaps not? Because there still needs to be a fairly equal exchange of being useful to one another. And if there is no longer that exchange, then it is okay to just set them free. And if they're meant to be your person, they'll come back, and they'll come back a different person, because they'll go through their own journey. And if they do, some won't. And if not, then they were never meant to be yours. And with the romantic relationships, this is where you might find yourself sacrificing your own needs, your own values, just to maintain harmony and, once again, avoid conflict, which is a very, very normal. A good girl does not want to deal with conflict, and also with conflict, which is, once again, it's a challenge. It's not necessarily a conflict. There's a right way and there's a wrong way of doing it. There is no such thing as a right time, but in some ways there are. The right time to do something, and then there's also the wrong time. You never want it to be public, and you always want to do things with a sober mind. And sober mind doesn't just mean when you're under the influence of substances. Sober mind actually also means, have you had enough sleep, enough rest? Have you been eating well? Overeating causes our mind to be intoxicated. Have you had enough water? Are you under the weather or not? This is also not the sober mind. Sober mind is when you feel good, when you feel clean, when you feel like yourself. So recognizing what causes you to feel not sober, and we're meant to be sober. And also, have you been maybe having too much screen time, which can affect your mind, and you're no longer sober? Hey, Rachel, how are you doing, beautiful? Welcome. Now, also in the workplace, that's another area where good girls struggle to set boundaries. This one is very common. And in the workplace, say no to extra work, or sometimes somebody brings you some demands or something to do and it's not realistic for you, which can lead to burnout. It always will lead to burnout or overwhelm, because if you keep saying yes and yes and yes to everything, how much time and energy and effort do you have left for your own work to be done, and for taking care of yourself as well? Because even though you're at work, you still need to prioritize your own self-care. Respecting boundaries is very, respect and the boundaries is very important in the workplace, because when you struggle to assert your boundaries with colleagues, or with your bosses or your supervisors, or hopefully leaders and not bosses, it can lead to you being overworked and feeling stressed, anxious, and undervalued. And this, just looking into the future just a little bit, if you say yes to this thing, how are you going to feel in 10 minutes from now, in 10 days from now, in 10 weeks from now, in 10 years from now? Is it that important? And if you're not going to feel good, then don't say yes to it. But if there is something for you and you're going to feel good, then yes, say yes to it. Just pausing for a moment before you right away say, yes, 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 I'll do that. Just so you can make someone else happy, but in the end, you're sacrificing yourself in more ways than just one. Another area where good girls struggle with, and this one across the board, what I already mentioned, and that is that self-care. Having time for yourself is a must. You're also teaching your kids. You're also teaching your friends. You're also teaching your partners, your families, how important self-care is by doing that, by prioritizing that. Because when it comes to self-care, most good girls will not prioritize their personal time. They will not prioritize their hobbies or relaxation because they will have that belief that somebody else's and everybody else's needs come first. And this is where you might find yourself whenever you have this personal time to do what you want to do, or your hobbies, or you're just relaxing, you feel guilt. You feel shame. You use mean or hurtful words towards yourself, and you don't even know where it's coming from because you're trying to convince yourself that you are allowed, you're worthy of rest, you're allowed and worthy to be relaxed, to do your hobbies, but it's coming from that deeply ingrained program that it's important to rewrite if you want to live the life that you want to live, that you are unworthy of doing what you want to do. You must do everything for everyone else. And then afterwards, if you have time and energy, which most likely you will not, you can do what you want to do. But even if you do have that time and energy, you still will find yourself feeling guilty of doing it. Maybe for a few minutes you'll feel okay, but then shortly after you'll start feeling bad about you doing what you want to do, and therefore you won't continue on this cycle of not doing the things that you actually want to do. Rachel Brown says, does good girl equal people pleaser? Yes, good girls are all people pleasers. They put people first, and this is one of the core definitions of a good girl, that she will be putting other people first. But then also there's a healed good girl, and this is where yes, she's still gonna people please, but in a way that is going to actually benefit her and not everyone else. Yes, it's going to benefit everyone else, but first it must be what's in it for me, and then saying yes to it or saying no to it. And with self-care, mental and emotional health as well, which allows others to take advantage of the good girl's time, of your time, and your energy and emotions, leading to feeling exhausted and overwhelmed. Also, when it comes to social interactions, you have obligations that you must be present for, whether it's attending some events or engaging in certain activities out of obligation, feeling like you have to, and rather than you actually wanting to do it or to be there. And it comes from a place of, I don't want to disappoint others. Back to people pleaser. How many people do you know in your life that are this way? And perhaps including yourself, that will say yes to some kind of an invitation that they don't even want to be a part of, because for whatever reason, maybe it doesn't align anymore, or they just don't want to be there, that would say yes to some kind of event, some kind of engagement, or some kind of activity that there's nothing in it for them, but they still do it. They still go, they still show up and play a role of, yes, I am so excited to be here. I am enjoying myself. I am loving it. Convincing themselves, where in reality, all they can think of is, this is the last place I want to be. I would much rather sit in front of a TV and watch something, or just much rather go for a walk, or go and hang out with my favorite person, or much rather play with my kids, or much rather do something I really want to do and be somewhere else and not here. And then also personal space. When it comes to that personal space, good girls will find it difficult to maintain their personal space, both physically and emotionally, due to their fear of seeming unfriendly or distant or rude or what's the word? Unsociable, that you're not being very social. Why are you here? Why don't you go socialize with everyone? I mean, I remember that at this stage of my life very clearly. Without going into details, I was told, why don't you go socialize? Go to this, go to that. I don't want to do none of that. I'm actually more of an introvert than an extrovert. The only part that I am an extrovert with is through these videos, through group calls and the business, everything that I do for work, for our business, and loving and enjoying being outdoors. Usually by myself, or maybe with my dog, or maybe with people who just aren't talking too much and just allow the peace and quiet to be. And then there's times where I'm okay with being with other people outside. So that's the only times that I'm actually an extrovert. Otherwise, I'm an introvert. I like to be by myself. When I go to big parties or events, I don't really want to or care to socialize with people. And because no one really cares to get to know one another, they just want someone to listen to them. And everyone will still have their own perception and their own idea of who they think you are. And most people will be wrong. And that has been my experience throughout my life, that most people just assume I am this person, but in reality, I am not that person at all. So I've learned to be more than okay with not having to socialize with people that I just don't want to socialize with. I socialize with people that I want to socialize with. And if that's you, then you know who you are. While others, I'm okay not socializing with them. I understand that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And I understand that my time on this earth is limited. And I also want to limit who I share that time with. And that's absolutely okay. We're not for everyone. We're not. And the sooner that we detach ourselves from that expectation that I want to be liked and loved by everyone, the easier life will get. Because good girls also want to be liked and loved and accepted by everyone, but it's just simply not possible. Some people are, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, they're still not going to like you. And it's not about you, it's about them. It's because of who they are and who they see themselves as that you don't align with in one way or another. Because maybe you're challenging them and they don't like to be challenged. Rebecca says, also, it's not easy to know our choices make others unhappy, but it's a matter of choosing who we will, this notification likes to come up, who we will care for at first. Yeah, choices are there. They always will be, even when we're not aware that there's a choice. And most of the time, especially when starting off making choices, making conscious choices, it's not going to be easy. Because when you live most of your life unconsciously as a sleeper, that you're not aware of your choices being present to you, that your subconscious is choosing for you. And once you awaken and you realize, you feel shook and your life is essentially not your own, this is where you start to recognize that you've had choices and you've been making choices all along, your whole entire life. You've just not been awake for them. You've not been aware of those choices. There are moments where you were, but for the majority of your time, of your day, you have not been making conscious choices. It's your subconscious, your default programming that has been making choices for you. And this is where now you wake up and you realize that the life that you're living is not your own, yet it is of your own creation, just of the subconscious one that is that unconscious programming that has created your current reality. But the great news is that once you realize that you are awakening, that you have conscious and subconscious, you can start reprogramming, rewiring, essentially rebrainwashing yourself and your subconscious. So that way, when you are living and going through your day, as 95% of the day you are unconscious, that default program is actually unconsciously creating the life that you truly want and desire. And rewriting the subconscious, part of it is unconscious rewriting, and the other part is you're doing it through conscious, when you are aware, when you are in the present moment, when you're involving all of these senses, and you change and you write that subconscious program while you're conscious. Yeah, you gotta get to the program from both conscious and subconscious. Interesting concept, but I won't go into this concept right now because that's a whole different conversation. It's a whole different topic. Just planting a seed a little bit. Just a reminder, each and every one of us grows at our own pace. Don't rush the process, whether it's your own growth and your evolution, your process, or anybody else's. What we're all meant to practice is detachment. And the universe has been teaching us detachment from the moment that we were born. You loved a toy, and the universe essentially took that toy away from you because it got broken. And of course, you cried and you sobbed about that toy, but you didn't know that the universe was just teaching you to be detached. Yes, attached in the way of experiences and loving everything and everyone, but still be detached, trusting that everything has its place, everything has its purpose, everything has its time. And also when you're losing people, that's another way how you're going to be taught to practice detachment and learning to grieve and heal through that grief. Yeah, I'm just looking at a few of my other notes. That's all I wanted to share. And remember that if you're feeling hurt by someone, how you can practice being detached is in this way. Remind yourself of the times when you were hurt, and even though you didn't want to, you were hurting other people as well. You would lash out, you would snap, you'd be short-tempered, annoyed, irritated. You were still hurting other people because you're hurt. Hurt people hurt people. And just because someone is hurt, it does not make it your responsibility to fix it for them or to heal them. It is their path, it is their journey, it is their hurt. If they're not learning from their hurt, it's not your responsibility to teach them. You can remind them, you can maybe guide them, you can ask them questions, but you can't tell people what to do. No one likes being told what to do. Because even if you tell them the solution of whatever it is that they're struggling with, it's going to fall on deaf ears. They're not going to hear it. They're not going to do anything about it. But if they come up with that same solution on their own, they will be automatically bought in and they will do something about it. It must come from within. All the answers, all the solutions must come from within. And when they do, this is where the person is bought in. It comes through as the aha moments, as the realizations, as connecting the dots. And what happens in that moment, new neural pathways are created, essentially creating new brain cells. Yeah. Trusting that everyone has their own journey and what's meant to be is going to be, and that not everybody's meant to be in our life for the rest of our life. Rachel Brown says, coming out of default mode has been challenging for me. It's easy to slide back into default mode. Oh, 100%. It's so much easy because it's comfortable, it's convenient, it's very familiar. Even though it doesn't feel comfortable, even though it hurts, it's easier because, and the comfort itself is familiarity. You know what to expect. You know that if you say yes to someone, you know that your part of you is going to feel good and the other part of you is going to feel bad. And it's easier to go back to our old ways until it's no longer easier, until we've suffered enough or experienced enough pain that we simply will no longer go back there. It's like we do this this merry-go-round, this back and forth of getting better and going back to it in almost every part of our life. And it is part of the process because in order for you to know what you want, you need to try out different things. And when you try out different things, there's going to be something that you will experience that will connect those dots for you, that you will no longer back to that previous version of yourself because it's just everything clicks. It's almost like you see that puzzle as clear as day. And I don't want to use the word fixed, but that's the word that makes sense to everyone, that you are all of a sudden fixed and you no longer go back to that version of yourself, but you will end up continue growing and evolving, and you'll go back to the previous version of yourself. So not the initial default mode or programming, but a more evolved one. You'll continue to go back to it. And until you finally connect all the dots that you needed to connect, and you, as I like to call, you get your shit together and you allow yourself to be you. And one of those things is detached involvement with not just everyone and everything in your life, but with yourself. And having expectations, but not attaching yourself to any expectations. Having your dreams, but not attaching yourself to any of those dreams. Having your goals, your desires, but not attaching yourself to them. Just, having a vision of what you want, but not attaching yourself to any specific part of that vision, and just allow the universe to surprise you. And it will surprise you in the best ways possible, in the ways that you haven't even dreamt or thought of before. And that's the fun part of life, isn't it? So thank you, ladies. Thank you for being on here with me and sharing and asking questions. I'd love to hear how this good girl, why good girls struggle to set boundaries video was for you, what you learned from it today. What was your biggest realization, your biggest takeaway today? And then, what are you actually going to do with it? Action is the most important step. You can learn, but knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. And if you want to be powerful, if you want to get your shit together, if you want to get your life together, you want to change that default program, it is not going to happen through simple realizations and wishful thinking. Action must be taken. That's what universe wants. That's you proving to the universe that you want this. So take the action and see what happens. Rachel says, thank you, Yana. It's always a pleasure listening to you. You're welcome. It's amazing hearing that. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then Kimberly said, thank you. You're welcome, Kimberly. Thank you, ladies, for being on here. Thank you for interacting and asking questions and opening yourselves up as much as you feel comfortable. Otherwise, I will not be going live for the next couple of weeks, just an FYI. Some of you might already know, others will know soon enough, but I'll show up in some different ways. In the group, I have the videos already pre-recorded and ready to go, and I'm telling you, they are actually pretty good. As I already, like I said, I pre-recorded them and they're there for you. Anyways, that's it. That's all. Thank you very much. Have an amazing the rest of your day. And until we see each other live on my personal page in September. Yeah. Just feels so far away and yet it's so close. Have an amazing rest of your day and we'll see each other then. Bye.